Hi, I'm John Cronin, Reform UK candidate for the local elections in Southwark. With me today is a co-presenter and
Reform UK activist.
A Reform UK activist and campaigner. And our special guest today, Mark Simpson, who ran in the London Assembly elections for Reform UK for Barnet and Camden.
Yes.
Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Yeah, very nice to be here. Yeah, like John said, I stood in Barnet and Camden in the what was it, the May elections now. Yeah. Right. So thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
Okay. What we want to start off with is well, when we're going into it, how do you see? How did you find the campaign and all that?
I think it was a challenging campaign. I don't think anyone would say it wasn't. The reform back then, was very new, still is very new. But I think back then we were, even still in our infancy in many ways. So, kind of getting volunteers, organising ourselves. I think we made the best of a difficult hand. I think it's fair to say, and I think we achieved 3%. But 3% with very, very few people is encouraging. So. It was only 3%, but I think in Barnet and Camden that was worked out to be 4,107 people. So, once again, thank you to all those 107.
So how do you see yourself going forward politically for Reform UK?
Well, first of all, we'll see if I pass the assessment there.
I'm sure you have.
We'll see. So I've applied for that, so we'll see what happens. And then it's just a case of, finding out if I'm standing, where I'll be standing. And then it's, building, my knowledge of the area, getting to know, volunteers, supporters, whatever it might be. And, then really, trying to get the reform name out there.
The local elections, you've got wards, haven't you? So you've got people. What's the strongest ward for you?
Yes, that's going to be it. Yeah. So there's a lot of work to be done, but
especially getting the brand identity out. That's a really difficult thing for us because we're polling at about 5% at the moment, which is brilliant in various polls between 4 and 5%, which is great. And I just sort of say, imagine if the whole country knew who we were, how high would we be polling then?
I think they're going to be addressing that at the Reform UK conference on the 3rd of October in Manchester. Was it from 10 till 6, isn't it?
10 till 6. There are still 100 or so tickets available. Just go to the Reform UK website now, and you can get them for £15 if you're not a supporter, £10 if you are. It'll be amazing. David Ball speaking, Richard Titus will be speaking. There's plenty of special guests about healthcare, the new healthcare plan. Richard will be speaking about the economic plan, the cladding plan. There'll be lots of news, special guests, experts in their field. So it'll be a great day to really hammer home the policy of the party.
And at least voters will have an idea of our policies, a clear idea.
100%, Mark.
And also, as well, if there's any disaffected Conservative MPs, members, we're just across the road, as Richard said, and the doors will be open.
Absolutely great to get company about MPs on.
Well,
the tickets are £10, aren't they?
£10 if you're a supporter, £15 if you're not. Talking of Conservative MPs, last week we had the cabinet reshuffle. So Gavin Williamson he's gone, thank goodness. Well, probably the worst education secretary in history.
You're talking about giving a knife, don't
Oh, God.
Well, he'll be in the Lords before soon, no doubt, to go along with his knighthood,
It makes some gaps.
Yeah. Absolutely. Talking of gaps, Nadeem Zahawi, the most, famously caught lines to our friend Claire Fox. He's education secretary now. I mean, how on earth did he make it there?
He was promoted from, he was vaccines
minister,
I wonder what he's going to be doing as his education secretary. They're going to combine the two?
Yeah.
And one big story, Priti Patel, she was rumoured to potentially be being sacked as Home Secretary, but she remains in that post. Mark, just want to talk to you a little bit about the immigrant crossings. She needs to do more, doesn't she? How important do you think it is for voters out there?
It's huge, especially if you're living in one of these coastal communities. Before we came on this evening, I was, just browsing on my Twitter, and I saw now there's been, I think, 634 boats arrived this year. Thousands of people, and no doubt some of these people, are genuine asylum seekers in need of help, but that's not to say that we should be encouraging people to come illegally. Of course, yes, we help people, yes, we show compassion, but it has to be done in the right way. If we just have this you know, an open border in the Channel effectively, all we're doing is encouraging illegal immigration, and that's not good for anyone.
I mean, the amount of money these people are paying to come over is absolutely...
It's huge.
Astronomical,
yeah.
Of course.
So, big topic this week and last was the Insulate Britain protest on the M25. Now, if people haven't seen, it's just you're going to look. What they've been doing is sort of going to the middle of the motorway and sort of laying in the middle of the road, stopping traffic, proceeding along, painting the road, and they've been sat there, and the police have taken hours and hours and hours to remove them. You know, John, you and I were speaking about it this week. It's just ridiculous, isn't it?
It is. It's just, you know, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, like, people's lives have been at risk. I mean, you noticed this week that a young mother was left paralysed after the protest delayed her getting to the hospital.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
it's only going to get, all these things are only going to get worse, and people will get more and more angry and all the rest of it, because people just want to go about their business.
That's the thing I don't understand about this. Who are they actually trying to win over? By blocking the M25, affecting businesses.
It's more pollution.
Yes. You know, I understand protests. You know, in many ways, I can understand the logic behind Extinction Rebellion, what they do in central London, because, you know, that's a very visible thing to lots of people. But shutting down the M25, who's that going to win over? Like, you know,
it's going to lose.
Exactly.
It's more emissions.
And that's not an endorsement of Extinction Rebellion.
No,
I think they're equally as nutty. But yeah.
Well, like, you hear them on the TV, they seem totally oblivious to ordinary people. They're just only concerned with their own agenda.
Yeah, for sure. It's ridiculous. So the police, a little bit like with Extinction Rebellion, the police are so weak with them. I mean, this week it took them hours to get them off the road. Now, if I was in charge of the police, I wouldn't have that traffic queuing up. I'd get them off the road within seconds. They wouldn't be there for you know. And the police have to do more.
They really are breaking the law.
Absolutely.
The highway. Yeah.
And the problem is, if it carries on, people are eventually going to take it into their own hands and do something. You know, just gonna, one day somebody might just go, I'm fed up with this, and just drive straight through, and that would be absolutely disastrous. So the police have to act.
And crucially, they'll have 99% of the population on their side. You know, you know, they'll be at a huge, overwhelming majority for the police. You know, perhaps being, you know, even a bit more heavy-handed, you could say, and you know, dealing with these lunatics, for want of a better word.
They definitely get a lot of, definitely get a lot of support. The police, if they did act not in a proper manner.
Certainly.
So, talking of sort of emissions and climate change, China are a big player in that. And, you know, these protesters protest here, and yet we do some of the most in the whole world to deal with emissions. China don't do anything, so I always question why not go to China. Now, you did spend a long time in China, didn't you, Mark? So, just talk to us about your experience there. Yeah,
well, first I'll touch on China and climate emissions. China are opening, you know, coal power plants one a week still. You know, their emissions are not due to peak at the earliest until 2050. So clearly, China have a lot of work to do and hold a lot of responsibility for this. So why are these, you know, protesters not outside the Chinese embassy?
Yeah.
To me, that would be a very logical kind of thing to do. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But talking more broadly about China, you know, yes, I was there for 7 years, so, you know, not an insignificant amount of time. You know, actually, I think it's a real shame, because there are a lot of, you know, very good people in China. You know, I have a lot of people there, you know, that are my friends, they're good friends, you know, that help me out in all kinds of situations. I think it's important to distinguish between the government of China and the people of China. You know, the government of China is currently, you know, imprisoning, you could call it a genocide, millions of its own Muslim population in the west of China. You know, those people, you know, are by no means happy with the system there. And you don't have to be, you know, in the Uyghur minority in China to not agree with the system. They're dealt a bad hand. So I think it's important to make that distinction.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and you know, I could talk for hours on China. We only have a limited time. But what I thought was interesting today, the Taliban in China seem to have struck up quite a friendship recently. And apparently, a spokesman from the Taliban said that China and Afghanistan have begun a process already of developing strong relations. So, you know, with friends like that, you know, really, who needs Who needs enemies?
So, I mean, there's often quite a negative a negative perception about living in China. You know, if you say to a person, "Oh, I'm going to move to China," that, you know, there's sort of a negative perception attached to it. Talk to us about that. Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's unfair?
You know, again, good question. I could talk for a long time.
Yeah.
Certainly in the time I was there, 2013 to 2020, I saw a lot of changes in China. When I first went there, I think China was a much more open, much more welcoming country than it is today. President Xi has, you know, really taken China down a hard line route of, you know, kind of asserting China on the global stage, and with that comes quite a nasty nationalism, and actually what also comes with it is racism. You know, I experienced it in the beginning of the COVID pandemic. After, you know, it was in Wuhan, then, you know, China, you know, went into full-blown lockdown, and then, you know, in Europe it was spreading like wildfire. When that was happening, foreigners, you know, non-Chinese, not allowed on, well, there were bus drivers, for example, wouldn't let people on if they weren't Chinese.
That's staggering.
You weren't allowed into supermarkets. You know, security guards would say, no, you're not coming. And that's...
Imagine if we did that here.
Well, of course, yeah. But it's all... And it's... And again, I don't blame, you know, the security guards, because often these are, you know, poorly educated, you know, people, you know, earning, you know, really a pittance. It's all kind of plays into this kind of deeper narrative, you know, how China is becoming, you know, this kind of more unwelcoming country. And you know, and it's a shame for me because... you know, I have many Chinese friends, you know, and I, you know, did have, you know, several good years in China. That's why I was there for so long. But I think it's now time for us to be very cautious in, you know, our dealings with China. We can see, you know, they've got their fingers in a lot of pies, a lot of vital technology. We saw it first with Huawei and the 5G. Thankfully, we, you know, kind of put the brakes on that. I believe there was a nuclear, they were going to build core components of a nuclear plant.
Well, interestingly here, they sort of run, a Chinese sort of company owner runs in bed with the, you know, the Communist Party in China.
Ah, yes, Southern Water.
Southern Water, and they run the electricity for all of the south, all of the east, and all of London. And, you know, I just find that really threatening and dangerous. Imagine if they, one day we follow up with the Communist Party, they could shut the lights off in London within seconds. Yes. And I just find that, you know, utterly appalling.
Yeah, it's very worrying.
Dangerous.
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I think people are beginning to wake up to it. I think especially in Britain, because we've seen with Hong Kong, you know, how we had the 50-year handover agreement. You know, it was a 50-year. Let's not you know, underplay it. It was an international agreement, 50 years. And I think we've seen kind of how China, you know, disregarded that. So I think that, plus what's going on with the Muslims in Xinjiang, it's caused people to kind of, you know, stop and actually think about if China is a country that we want to be friends with and if we want to deal with. And it's a shame, it is a shame, but that's the reality we're in.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a situation now with the pact that has been made between the UK, America and Australia. France have...
Not best pleased.
They have thrown their toys at the pram, basically. They've withdrawn their ambassadors from Australia. And
it's getting a bit nasty. But, you know, that the French have a habit of, you know, kind of throwing their toys out the pram if they don't get their way.
Yeah.
So.
Just a little bit on that, Pat. What do you think it means? Because obviously, Prime Minister Boris Johnson, Joe Biden, didn't mention China directly in either the press release or the press conference, but obviously there were strong inspirations against China. And China sort of came back and said that the three countries need to shake off their Cold War mentality. What do you think this means for relations between the countries?
I think it means basically they're going to continue getting more and more frosty. You know, Australia are not spending the billions and billions and billions of dollars that they are on nuclear submarines because they want to. Yeah. They're doing it because they perceive it to be a real threat. Yeah. And in that region, where does the threat come from? Yes, you know, you don't have to be a you don't have to be an academic to work out it's from China. Yeah. Even to the extent where Vietnam are considering allowing a US naval base to open in Vietnam, and because of, you know, China's presence in the South China Sea, and given, you know, the obvious history between China, between Vietnam and the US, you know, that would be quite remarkable.
Absolutely staggering.
Yeah, coming back home.
Yes.
Right. I was at the cladding demonstration last week. Interesting news: Michael Govers took over. He had an interesting first day of the demonstration. He's got a good record. He's got a good record. I don't know how.
I wouldn't say he's got a good record in Aberdeen nightclubs.
Exactly. I know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's good. You know, he's been instructed by Boris to sort out the mess.
Yeah.
I mean, I was around the people there, and you could see the desperation and frustration of the people. Like, why is it taking so long? Well, you know, it's a simple thing. Even I partly agreed with Sadiq Khan. Would you believe?
Wow,
what he
that's
came out
something.
with,
Yeah.
when he turned around and said, sort out, the government should get a check out, sort all this out, and then sort it out with the developers and the polluters afterwards. Because these people are going through.
It must be hell. I mean, you know, people are just being left destitute. You know, it can't be right in 2021 that, you know, people could potentially go bankrupt to pay, you know, for houses and properties they bought in Goodwill.
Exactly.
It's shocking.
And obviously you campaigned in the London campaign.
Yes.
And that was one of our big key policy points.
Yes.
We were the first ones to bring it up, Reform UK,
course we were.
and they seem to be playing catch up, these major parties now. So Reform UK
Setting the agenda,
have got their finger on the pulse of the nation, basically.
Absolutely. How much of a key issue was it when you were campaigning?
Yeah, it was big. You know, I did a couple of hustings that I did during the time. Yes. They surprisingly didn't touch on the cladding scandal, but that was partly because of the organisations that were with them. But yeah, you know, when you go out and talk to people, you know, my patch, you know, covered all the way from Barnet to North London, all the way to the British Museum in Camden, right in the centre. So it's, you know, huge area, and you know, but there was. Because this is very serious, there was, you know, real anger. I think it's kind of almost gone past anger. You know, there's kind of disappointment and, you know, just this kind of, people have kind of dispirited by the situation that they're in through no fault of their own. You know, and all I can do is, you know, sympathise with these people because, you know, they've been dealt out, you know, really an awful hand.
Absolutely.
Of course, we've another thing that we campaigned hard on during the thing was NTLTN.
Yes, that was a big one.
And there's a debate coming up at Stoke Newington in the Moormaid Club in Newington Green. It's been organised by the London Democrats, but that was another thing that was never discussed.
Yeah.
During the it's called the Stoke Newington Church Street Low Traffic Neighbourhood Scheme public debate. It's like it was never discussed. So everyone be in the sit down on both sides, whatever they think, and all the facts to be there. It'd be a bit like Question Time, but a little less biased.
Yeah. That's not difficult these days.
Yeah, tickets, it's on Thursday the 30th of September from 7 to half 8. Tickets are £5 and £3 concessions. This is just to cover the venue hire and promotion, so no money's being made, basically. Yeah, it's, well...
It affects so many people. That's
of course
the
it
really
does.
Thing. I mean, you were doing hustings with people with disabilities, and it was so key for them.
Because it just got bought in, and no one had a say.
Yeah.
So,
no,
ideal now for public debate. I advise people to turn up.
Yeah.
And pay their money.
On the topic of public debate, Battle of Ideas is back on the 9th of October. So next week, at the weekend following
9th and
this
10th,
one,
yep.
9th and 10th of October, Westminster Church House. There are so many topics and debates. Claire Fox will be there. There's so many speakers, John. You know some of them. You know,
yeah, Toby Young, Mo Lovat, a whole load of Austin Williams that we've had on the show previously.
Sue Cook, ex-BBC presenter.
Sue Cook, yep.
Hundreds of
some big names, real big names.
Some real big names.
And it's going to be absolutely brilliant. So you can come along now. Tickets are available to buy now, aren't they, John?
Yeah, tickets are early bird. You can get your tickets on the battleofideas.org.uk. You can order tickets for 1 day or 2 days. They range from adult concessions. I think adult stay for 1 day is £45, and I think it's something like £75 for the 2 days. But there's a lot of debates. It'll be all day from 10 to say 6 o'clock in the evening, and there's a lot of choice of what you want to see and varied topics.
Remember, free speech is so important, and that's why events like this are so key for our democracy to remain functioning. Yeah, I think that's about all today, isn't it, John?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Very welcome to have you. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.